Good morning. Thank you all for being here today to honor the memory and celebrate the life of Dr. Ruth Looper. A few housekeeping items. If you would please silence your cell phones. And the bathroom is to my right here if anybody needs it. Programs are also in the back if you did not get one on your way in. Dr. Looper taught on this campus for 28 years and impacted legions of students and colleagues with her work, her life, and her friendship. To summarize such a person and the impact they had and are still having is impossible. It's too big a task for one person, so many have gathered here today, not in an attempt to tell the entire story, but to say, hey, remember that one part? That was good. That was a good part. And that's what we're here to do today. Some call it sharing, some might call it grief. The truth is that it's all that and more. In such times, laughter and tears seem to hold hands. Because grief, if that's what you want to call it, never really seems to show up dressed the same way. I'm wearing the most ridiculous thing I have. Yes, sometimes it laughs until it hurts, and sometimes it has a lot to say, and sometimes it has very little to say, and sometimes it sings, and sometimes it cries, and sometimes it's angry. So my job today is to tell you, using a word I've heard a lot recently, is it's all appropriate. It's all appropriate. When facing such a loss and remembering such a gift as someone like Dr. Ruth Looper. Appropriate and welcome. Thank you for being here today. We will begin our program with a poem read by Dr.
Good morning. I'll be reading The Lake Isle of Innisfree by William Butler Yeats. And this is a poem that Ruth and I had many conversations over, and it is with her help that I teach this poem every single year. And I think you will see exactly why this is perfect for today. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, at a small cabin built there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. There, midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day, I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray, I hear it in the deep heart's core. Thank you.
So I first met Ruth Looper in 1996 when she applied for a teaching position here at the college. I happened to be the chair of the Humanities Division at that time. And so I had quite a lot to do with the interview process. And it was my great privilege to recommend her to the administration for employment. I thought that she and I bonded instantly. And indeed we did, and we had great friendship over all the years. But what I soon discovered is there was nothing too special about our bonding, because Ruth had the capacity to bond instantly with anyone she encountered. But here's my story. As many of you now know, in late July, a month ago, I lost my 61-year-old son, Stephen, to a sudden cardiac event of some kind. Right away, of course, I began to receive numerous messages of sympathy and support, both spoken and written. On August the 5th, in an email with the subject of vibes, prayers, hugs, and love, Ruth Looper conveyed to me the following message. Dear JB, JB being her abbreviation of Johnny Baby. I hope that you know you are surrounded by love and heartfelt prayer during this time of grief. I'm sharing one of my mom's favorite passages about the nature of death. May it help you as it helped her and me And then she quotes from Thomas Wolfe's "You Can't Go Home Again." And I quote, "Death is to lose the earth you know for greater knowing, to lose the life you have for greater life, to leave the friends you loved for greater loving, to find a land more kind than home, more large than earth." End of quote. On August 16th, in a passing eerily similar to my son's, Ruth lost so much, only to gain so very much more. Greater knowing, greater life, greater loving, to find a land more kind than home, more large than earth. This, I believe, was her faith, and this was her reward. As a final tribute to Ruth, who loved much and was loved much in return, I cite this brief poem of Byron Herbert Reese, which I think is so descriptive of this lovely, adorable lady. Remember that Ruth was a strong advocate of Byron Herbert Reese, both in the classroom and as a member of the Reese Society. But here's the poem. It's called "The Lady of Quality." The lady of quality who lived in the lane was beautiful in pleasure and beautiful in pain. She carried her beauty through all the years, beautiful in laughter, beautiful in tears. She carried her beauty past being and breath. Beautiful she was in life, and beautiful in death. Reese must have had someone like Ruth in mind when he penned those words. Thank you, dear Ruth, for all the memories. You are always going to be to us a genuine lady of quality. Thank you.
Every morning these days, I sit at the bow window in my den and write in my notebook. The window is a favorite place of mine. It looks out on a azalea that drapes over a retaining wall, an enormous azalea. Beside it is a oak leaf hydrangea. There, against a white pebble path that meets with a low stone wall. And then behind the stone wall is a garden of Lenten roses. And out of all this grows an enormous beech tree. And I find it to be inspiring almost every morning. The morning that Ruth died, I wrote this. My friend Ruth died suddenly. It rained all night long. This morning, my window does nothing for me. It does not weep. It drips, drips, drips. The perky hydrangea and solemn azalea that droops over the retaining wall, so alive, each in its own way, are slicked over with the sweat of last night. I barely slept. The upright beech slumps drenched. The last time Ruth visited, we had a living room full of friends and partied with cake and song. It was St. Patrick's Day, and we chose familiar Irish and Irish American tunes. Picture Ruth, eyes closed, smiling broadly, singing McNamara's band while conducting an imaginary orchestra. Her laugh was outstanding, one friend wrote. Loud, sometimes a beat late, an eruption of joy. And her singing was most melodious, bubbly laughter. I heard laughter too when she read poetry. But like dips in the Pee-wee's Gone song, her voice could open a poignant register as well. The poet laureate of our merry band, she recited the Song of the Wandering Angus by William Butler Yeats, which begins, I went out to the Hazelwood because a fire was in my head. Her voice, pure and sweet. Her voice, pure and ageless. She read the circus animal's desertion, which ended. I must lie down where all the letters start, in the foul rag and bone shop of the heart.
Not totally prepared to speak today, but welcome, comrades, young scholars, Irish rovers. There's a joke there. Thank you so much for being here today and celebrating Ruth. When I was trying to prepare something, I really could not find my words. I'm not Dr. Kay, and I'm not Dr. Harvey, who are gifted in both. So I went to the place that I have found solace in the last 2 weeks, and that's Ruth. I went back through her emails to me. And the subject lines are just the best. They're absolutely the best subject lines ever. We should all try to copy them. She was constantly students killing riddles, laying riddles, if you will, and making them concise. She would say things like, Looper dunderhead. And what followed was some mistake or needing help. Looper begs new rooms. Looper, we've gotten into this whole thing about vortex. It's a long story, but it has to do with Mercury in retrograde, and she chose to call it the vortex. And so I have about 5 or 6 Looper's vortex, weather vortex. Vortex exorcist needed. So these were the kinds of emails that I got, and it's, that's who she was. She was a huge presence in Rules We Speak 110, and her presence is there in emails. But, sorry. She would always say, onward. And that's how she left every day, onward or not. Or sometimes we would sing little bits of so long, farewell. It just depended, but the most consistent was onward. And I think that's what she would say today. In fact, I kind of know it, because when my beloved grandmother passed away, Ruth sent me an email, very similar to yours, and it was about vibes, something like this. And she ended it with a prayer. So I'm going to end it with that today. And it was an Irish prayer. So this goes out to Ruth. May God level the road for her soul. Thank you.
A lot of people are wearing hats today, because Ruth loved hats. So this morning, I thought I would channel my inner Ruth and wear the most flamboyant thing that I could find. I met Ruth when I came here for a job interview in 2004, and I was fortunate to have her as a friend for 20 years. We were colleagues in the English department for 12, and for the last 10 years, we have worked together to create and nurture the Georgia Mountain Storytelling Festival. It was a passion project for both of us, and our year-round volunteer job. We would put in 10, 20, 30 hours a week on top of regular jobs. And Ruth is always willing to do whatever she could to ensure its success and longevity. So the festival has two mottos, and I think both of those speak to who Ruth was. The official motto is claim your voice. The idea being that whoever you are and whatever your life journey has been, you have a story to tell that is powerful and important. And Ruth spent her teaching career enabling her students to claim their voices. The unofficial motto of the festival is joy to the people. Ruth used to say that all the time because for her that's what storytelling was about. It was bringing joy to others. And for me, that's what Ruth's life was about, right? Spreading joy in the world. And she did that every day for countless people just by being who she was. You know, the thing about joy, and the thing about Ruth is that she showed up, right? She showed up for her students. She gave them the best of herself every day. She met them where they were, and she encouraged and inspired, and in some cases shoved her students into becoming who they wanted to be. And as Eloise and Matt and a lot of you know, she showed up for her colleagues. She's unfailingly positive and wise in our department. And as I said to her sister the other day, she was also the most artfully diplomatic person I have ever met. Y'all know this. Somebody would come and sit down in her office just breathing fire. And she would listen. And sometimes she'd breathe fire too, because she was very empathetic. But then Ruth would turn that conversation toward helping the person have what our dear friend Dr. Lynn Brady called a response rather than a reaction. And Ruth could do that because while everybody else was down in the weeds, she had her eye on the greater good. And she was always focused on how to help everybody get there. So she showed up for her colleagues. She showed up for the festival in dozens of ways. One that always makes me smile is last year on setup day for the festival, Ruth showed up in the pouring rain at 7 a.m. And many of you will know she was not naturally a morning person, right? So she showed up with her big old mug of coffee, or java, as she always said. And she freely admitted she would not be firing on all cylinders until she drank it. But she showed up with her booming laugh and her infectious enthusiasm for everything she did. She showed up for her family and her friends. Ruth was the person who would drive you to the doctor and feed your chickens and give you a ride if your car broke down. And she did that for everybody. She showed up for me personally during two of the most terrifying times of my life. And I can't imagine having walked through them without her. Some of you here will remember when my first child was born, 4 months premature. And we were in neonatal intensive care for 128 roller coaster days. And Ruth showed up at the hospital on a day that was not a good day. She met me where I was, and she gave me a hug. And you all know that when Ruth hugged you, she meant it. And then she gave my tiny, premature, might not live to see the next day baby a nickname. Because as Dawn pointed out, that's what she did with people. And that baby lived. And she called him that name for the next 17 years. When I was pregnant with my second child, my doctor put me on bed rest for 4 months to try to make sure that baby did not come early like his brother had. So every day was steeped in worry. Since I couldn't get up to do anything, all these wonderful people from my family's church brought meals over. Super healthy stuff, right? But there are only so many beets you can eat. So Ruth showed up with a cheeseburger. Now, I swear it was the best cheeseburger I've ever had, although realistically speaking, I think it came from the Dairy Queen drive-thru. So, you know, it was what it was. But Ruth came over and we ate and we taught, and we laughed, and suddenly the present and the future weren't nearly as frightening because Ruthie was there. And when that baby was born blessedly healthy and full term, Ruth showed up at the hospital. And in pretty short order, she gave that baby a nickname, and she called him that for the next 14 years. So Ruth showed up with her kindness, her generosity, and her good humor, and she made the world a better place for everybody who knew her. So, in closing, I want to say that when Ruth and I were working on the festival together, we used to do this really silly thing. We would award each other imaginary crowns for getting things done. Right? Like, you wrote that behemoth grant application. Here is your crown. You scrounged up 10 volunteers the day before the event. You must be staggering under the weight of your crown. Right? We would do this just, as a morale booster. So when I think back over all the ways that Ruth showed up for people throughout her life, and I think of the countless ways that she made life better for everybody, just by being who she was, I just want to say, Ruthie, honey, wherever you are, your crowns are legion.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Matthew Bruin, professor of English here, Ruth's sweet mate and friend, and also in the last couple of years, her chair. This morning, I read an article about grief that was an attack on the concept of the stages of grief. The writer was struggling with the loss of his mother and found that the stages were not really expressing his experience of mourning. They try to enforce a kind of order or teleology onto a very sprawling and very difficult process. And so the writer instead felt that the metaphor of a glass shattering was perhaps more appropriate. The idea being that you can try to pick up all pieces of the broken glass, but inevitably a month later, you'll be reaching for something and a sliver of it will cut your finger or your foot will get cut on a tiny piece of it that's remained in the corner of the room. But eventually all of those pieces will be picked up. So make of that whatever you will. I thought it might be potentially useful for some of y'all. I did want to talk a little bit about Ruth's signature characteristic, in my opinion, which is her amazing teaching ability. Look at the people who are here, right? There's so many of her former students in this room who have traveled to be here. I know that people are watching on the live stream, right? It's a testament to her legacy. So I had a chance to observe Ruth, and I learned one thing. I've always been really bad when I ask a question in class and then the students stare back and don't respond. And like, I'll get super anxious and then I'll like jump in and like answer in like 2 seconds, right? I watched Ruth wait like 3 minutes. And I was amazed by that. I said, that's the skill right there, right? And eventually students did start speaking. And I learned from Ruth that I need to be perhaps a little bit more patient when I ask students questions and they're not answering right away. I did want to mention that I observed Ruth's composition class, right? So Ruth has been teaching a lot of writing classes in the last couple of years as her career has been winding down, and she was a true expert in this, and I think she embodied the philosophy that all of us that teach in our department have with respect to writing, which is that it's more than just grammar, and honestly, it's more than just argument. She married storytelling and self-expression to writing, right? And I remember, I remember your story that you told. I'm not going to say the specifics, but I remember that moment. I remember the community that was built in that class because of the storytelling aspect, right? And so it's not just writing for Ruth. It's not just writing for me either. It's the ability to express yourself and to start carving out, especially for young people, carving out various forms of their identity that they will carry with them for the rest of their lives. And Ruth was an absolute artist and maestro when it came to that particular thing. And so I think that what I'll be doing going forward is trying to continue to embody that legacy when I go into the classroom and perhaps incorporate storytelling elements into the instruction of writing like Ruth did so well. Thank you.
Well, here's my Ruth story. It's a piece of paper that she stuck in my mailbox over PB 25 or 30 years ago. I kept it all these years, thinking I would use it for some occasion, but I never have. Today is the occasion as we remember and celebrate the life of this joyful, wonderful spirit called Ruth. I think maybe she gave me these words after having attended a family funeral. Maybe it was the one for her mother, I'm not sure. She probably put these words in my box thinking they might be of some help to me in my own ministry on a similar occasion. The first is a quote which you've already heard, John Kay, the quote from Thomas Wolfe, which is, I'm gonna read it again, it's short. To lose the earth, you know, for greater knowing. To lose the life you have for greater life. To leave the friends you love for greater loving. To find a land more kind than home, more large than earth. She also included on this paper a prayer by an Episcopal priest, Theodore Parker Ferris, who was rector of Trinity Church in Boston for decades. The prayer is entitled, "The Gift of Life." Teach me, O Lord, not to hold on to life too tightly. Teach me to hold it lightly, not carelessly, but lightly, easily. Teach me to take it as a gift, to enjoy and cherish while I have it, and to let it go gracefully and thankfully when the time comes. The gift is great, but the giver is greater still. Thou, O God, art the giver, and in thee is the life that never dies. These words are, I believe, a witness to Ruth's faith. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us that life is indeed a gift. A gift to be cherished, a gift to enjoy, and when the time comes, as it did for Ruth, to let it go, that we may receive the even more wonderful gift of greater and fuller life. Amen? Amen.
I can't think of much in the world that I like to do more than laugh. I like to laugh at myself. I like to laugh with people. I like to laugh at people sometimes. And Ruth and I shared so much laughter over so many years. I first met her in 1996. In fact, I had 2 all-nighters with Ruth. The first one was when I met her. My husband and I had gone to Atlanta to a chieftain's conflict. And Ruth was coming into town to live. And I said, oh, well, you can stay with us. I didn't know her at all, but I said, sure, stay with us. So we headed about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we talked and we talked and we talked. And soon it's like 3:30. And she says, do you think we need to go to bed? I said, no. I said, Dr. Tommy Gow is running the Olympic torch through Young Harris. And we've got to be up at 4 o'clock to see him go by. And so we stayed up all night, watched the torch go by, and then had a wonderful breakfast at the president's house. I had another all-nighter many years later when our very good friend Winston Burton called us up and said, hey, REM is playing in Birmingham, would you guys like to go? I'll get you good seats. And so Ruth and I said, yes, when is it? He said, it's on a Tuesday night. I said, Tuesday night, huh? I said, you think we can make 5.5 hours to Birmingham for that concert and then get back to teach class? Oh, yes. We hire a car, we go to Birmingham, we get to the concert. He didn't have tickets for us. He let us stand on the stage. We were right there, Ruth and I, 2 old rockers. And our students back home probably thought, what's going on with these two? And then we went to the concert, we came home, I was about asleep by the time I hit lyrics, so I said, and Ruth says, let me sing Irish songs. And so she started singing Irish songs, and the windows were down, and there she was in the middle of the night, you know, nobody was listening, so she was letting it all hang out, so to say. So, and thinking about Ruth and thinking about all of the great times, those two little things come to mind, but I have to say, every moment that I spent with her, was a special moment. And I was fortunate enough to spend lots of moments with her. So when I first heard the news about Ruth, my thoughts went to Ruth's sister. She was the first thing on my mind. And I thought, well, I need to write Ann Stewart, her sister, a letter. And so I did. And here it is. Dear Ann Stewart, I feel as though I'm writing to a long-cherished friend, for I have treasured my years knowing you through the loving words of your sister, whom so many of us loved so well and for so long. Ruth and I had much in common, besides the obvious teaching English at Young Mary's College. But certainly one of our greatest shared life gifts was having an only sister. One we trusted with our frustrations, our worries, our silliness, our dreams, and most of all, our love. My sister Margaret in Birmingham and you in South Carolina have been crowned queens by the two of us, and perhaps made saints on occasions through our frequent conversations. Indeed, Ruth loved you more than can be expressed through words or on paper, and I completely understand that. I also understand the enormity of your loss, for if Margaret were to pass, I would be bereft. With that in mind, please stay in touch with Sissy. I'm Sissy. I'm sister. Ruth is Sissy. Please stay in touch with Sissy's friends. For finding a new friend in you will be a bit like having a piece of her. No doubt you will hear amazing tributes to Ruth because she was one of those unique souls who touched her cadre of friends and students like a Celtic knot, intricately bound and unbreakable. And I am so grateful that Ruth and I shared a close relationship. Not only did we tromp the old side of Ireland together with our students, a number of them who are here, but we passed hour upon hour chatting, laughing, and shedding a few tears in her office, all the while dipping into her candy bowl to savor the tart taste of Smarties. Our conversations were not only personal but professional as well. We both love Ireland to the deep heart's core. We read Yeats and Heaney and Joyce and Beckett and Trevor and O'Brien, and we delved into Irish politics, the troubles, and the inexplicable connections we had to that tiny green Ireland. In short, Ruth was like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I loved her, and I know how deeply she loved you, and the countless others whose hearts and minds she will always inhabit. I'm just a phone call, a FaceTime, an email, or a text away, anytime, any subject. Fondly, Lisa.
This is bad practice, but I'm going to look at the page pretty much the entire time. This is Postscript by Seamus Eve. And sometime make the time to drive out west, into County Clare, along the flagging shore. In September or October, in September or October, when the wind and the light are working off each other, so that the ocean on one side is wild with foam and glitter and inland among the stones. The surface of a slate gray lake is lit by the earth's lightning of a flock of swans, their feathers ruffed and ruffling, white on white. Their fully grown headstrong-looking heads tucked or cresting or busy underwater. Useless to think you'll park and capture it more thoroughly. You are neither here nor there. A hurry through which known and strange things pass. As big soft buffetings come at the car sideways and catch the heart off guard and blow it open.
There were also several students that sent stories in that I will briefly summarize here. Professor Looper was more than a professor to me. She was a person I felt comfortable talking to when my parents were 7 hours away and had no one else to talk to. I was lucky enough to be able to have 3 of her classes my freshman year, and those were my favorite classes to attend. She was so excited to teach and help students learn and understand. She was passionate about everything that we talked about, from school to the fairs. She loved every student. If you missed a class, she would email you asking you if you're okay. I left YHC my freshman year and came back the next for a visit to see friends and also her. We talked for over an hour, like I never left. And she prayed for me and my family and told me to reach out. She never forgot me, and I will never forget her amazing personality and soothing voice, and her amazing, colorful outfits. Forever I will miss you, Katie. My name is Anton Biden. I was a student athlete at YHC between 2014 and 2017, playing soccer for the Mountain Lions, while earning a bachelor's degree in business and public policy. When I saw the news of Dr. Looper's passing, I immediately felt that I had lost someone I really cared about, almost the feeling of losing a family member. Dr. Looper was my English professor my last 2 semesters in the Enchanted Valley, and she made an impact on me the way she genuinely cared about me inside and outside the classroom. She had her own way of pronouncing my name, Antoon, which was definitely more French than Swedish, but it became a signature way for her that I didn't mind at all. Dr. Looper will truly be missed. I'm so happy I had the chance to get to know her. Anton Biden, class of 2018. I went on a YHC study abroad trip to Ireland with Dr. Looper. She was such a kind, intelligent lady with an incredible passion for her students' education. I will never forget the experiences of our group, and she guided us through the Irish poet home of William Butler Yeats, inside tombs older than the pyramids of Giza, and across beautiful natural areas. She was truly one of my favorite people. Very respectfully, Kate Foster. And finally, one last story. Dr. Looper was a fabulous, unique professor whose influence I still feel today, over a year after graduating. She was one of the first professors I had, and I knew I would take every English class I had to with her. She spent our first class going over the origins of the words, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, postprandial stupor. Is that right? I have no idea. To basically say you're a freshman, you just had lunch, you have this word, but we're going to learn stuff. She was consistent with her usage of cheers, huzzah, and young scholars, all of which made her very individual and made me feel as if I was talking to Shakespeare. In my final year, Dr. Looper spent an hour of her time reviewing and editing my personal essay with me for medical school, even though I hadn't taken a course with her for 2 years at that point. During the first faculty and staff meeting with PRISM, Dr. Looper was present in full support of the members. I also invited her to be my guest at the first YHC Lavender graduation, after which she gifted me a book of poems by Jericho Brown entitled The Tradition. The book currently has and will forever have a place on my bookshelf. This loss is tragic and unexpected. My heart is with her loved ones and all that feel her loss. Cheers, Will Verity, class of 2023. P.S. All credit for the salutation is given to Dr. Ruth Looper. Such stories are glimpses of light in a world that is often too dark. But that's the thing about light, the more of it you gather, the brighter it shines. And Dr. Looper was what I would call a light bearer. someone who had more than enough light to share, someone who didn't hoard it to themselves, but gave freely and still managed to shine. These candles are here in this moment to celebrate that, to remember the light she gave. And as this song is played, the great Irish hymn, Be Thou My Vision, all are welcome but not required or expected in any way to come and light a candle in memory of Ruth, but also as a thank you to her for sharing her life with you. As you do, please use the lighters on the back. Please be careful around the flames. Be mindful of your surroundings. Please do not crowd to the front. There should be enough for all that would like to light a candle. Please come as the song is played. Thank you all for being here today. As the late great writer Frederick Buechner puts it, when you remember me, it means that you have carried something of who I am with you, that you have left some mark of who I am on who you are. It means that you can summon me back to your mind even through countless years and miles, though they stand between us. It means that if we meet again, you will know me. It means that even after I have moved on, you can still see my face and hear my voice and speak to me in your heart. So may you remember. May you be the light. Amen. Go in peace.